everyone. Welcome to the fourth session of our workshop series, Caregiving 101. I've got Adrienne Cordero from Vieira Rehab.
Yep, Vieira Health and Rehab and Rockledge Health and Rehabs.
And Rockledge Health and Rehab. Jane Peach is coming to us from Assisting Hands, and Christina Texan is coming to us with Complementary Cancer Care. And this session is called Keeping Your Well Full. And I'm going to go ahead and start out with Christina. And we're going to, make you the host, Christina, so that she can go ahead and you're going to talk to us about support groups and what kinds of different support groups that are out there and kind of explain that sort of thing.
Okay. I'm just doing a share screen with you guys too, a little PowerPoint slide. Get that going. So yeah, so like I had said, or like Beth had said, my name is Christina. I'm a social worker, and I'm also a cancer survivor. So I wanted to kind of, from the perspective, my own perspective as well, just kind of let you know how support groups helped me and like why it actually inspired me to go into social work and be able to facilitate support groups and do counseling and all kinds of other supportive programs for cancer survivors and caregivers, and also, counseling that I do for another agency. But in general, just letting you know, we all know just talking to somebody can help a lot. So when you do go to kind of an organized support group of some kind, just to kind of let you know what to expect a little bit and why do it, you're going to find people that are in your same sort of circumstances and are like-minded. You get to swap stories with people who actually understand what you're going through. You get to exchange a lot of practical information that other people wouldn't understand, and they can give you guidance, encouragement, empathy, and you really do make a lot of lifelong friends and deep connections with people who really can understand what you're going through. For some of the people that I met in support groups when I was going through cancer treatments 5 years ago, I still keep in touch. We've moved to different places in the country, but and it doesn't even have to be about cancer. It can be about, some sort of, you just kind of get to know each other's emotional reactions and feel comfortable sharing with somebody. So that's one of the reasons I recommend it for anybody, whatever kind of medical illness or issues or trauma they might be going through, just finding people who understand and can support you. But in general, when you go to different groups, there are studies that out there that say that support groups reduce a person's stress and depression and anxiety, all common symptoms and struggles that people have when they're going through troubling times. It helps you feel more hopeful, and it helps you cope and manage your emotions better. There's a lot of knowledge that can be gained of what to expect during any kind of treatments for your illness or condition, how to manage side effects, and also how to communicate with your healthcare team and family members. A lot of times you'll find that you kind of need a break from your own caregiving team. You want to give them a break, or you just don't want to kind of share kind of what you're going through and put that on them as a burden. So support groups are great for that. There's different types. Some are just with peers and self-help groups. Some might be professionally led with a counselor or psychologist or social worker like me. And then some are just information where there might be guest speakers talking about different topics. And just know you might want to pick and choose what's out there, what fits you best. There's ones that will be specific to an illness or condition you might be going through, specific types or phases of your treatments, or if it's in a recovery phase, age groups. I was fortunate to find like a young adult group for cancer treatments, and that ended up being pretty helpful, having people that just have different concerns than what a senior citizen might have. For me, when I was diagnosed as a young adult, and then there's groups out there for caregivers, because of course the struggles that caregivers go through are somewhat the same, but from a different perspective, I'd say. So just know also then when I do my groups, kind of the information that I like to give in the beginning to kind of set the tone is that our goal is to create a safe, stable, comfortable, and productive environment. It's kind of a big no-no to actually give medical advice. I mean, you're giving suggestions, but know that your real medical advice, you want to consult with your healthcare team. What happens in groups is confidential, up to trusting others to keep it within the group. Usually there's a check-in process for groups that I lead, and a lot of facilitators do. So everybody's kind of mindful of their own time, speaking about their, a few minutes about their experiences, and then goes on to a next person, and everybody has a chance to talk if they'd like to. So just a general rule of not interrupting other people, and knowing that if you don't want feedback, you don't have to give or accept feedback. It's just a chance for people to say whatever's on their mind in a open and caring environment. So allow for differences, allow for silence, allow for tears, and allow for laughs. If you don't want the being in person with people, especially now with COVID times, there's ways of going online, news groups and mailing lists through email, message boards, and then chat rooms where you're kind of in real time. So check out the different kind of online options. And when you're finding a support group, just consider your own needs and your personality. You can ask yourself questions of, do you need emotional support, information and education, or a combination of both? Do you prefer sharing your experiences with a group in person, or do you prefer being anonymous and sharing online that way? You can also, to find a group, talk to your healthcare team or the hospitals. Some hospital sponsor groups, and there's a lot of nonprofits out there for all kinds of issues of, domestic violence, cancer, dementia, you name it. There's groups out there. You just have to look. So just doing an internet search on whatever the topic is can help you find groups, and then asking other patients and friends or colleagues. Mm-hmm. And then if the group of strangers is not your thing, just know that you can always just talk to friends, people that you know, or a lot of organizations have buddies or mentors where they'll match you up with somebody going through similar circumstances, someone who's been in your shoes. And that seems to be helpful to a lot of my cancer clients, especially. And just participating in activities. Just the important thing, I think, is just staying connected with people. A little quote that I liked: it may take a doctor to diagnose you, it takes a friend to recognize your suffering, and a fellow survivor to understand. So kind of just in summary, just know that, if you're talking to people and networking, I think just being sincere about it and just showing people how curious and interested you are. And I think that people inherently want to help. It's in us as human beings to want to connect with people and help whenever possible. And just make sure you follow up and advocate for yourself or your loved one. Check out different community resources, go online, check out clubs, groups, check with your hospital and different community organizations, and even attending different speaker presentations. Even if it's information that a lot of times I think just um, just having those reminders from somebody can really help, and makes you feel empowered, gives you that sense of control over whatever it is that you're kind of struggling with. And this is just kind of a listing of some groups in the area that could be helpful to a lot of people. Complementary Cancer Care is the organization that I work for. Sunflower House and Aging Matters, of course, does a lot for caregivers and the elderly in this community. 211 Brevard, you can call on or go online, and they kind of have tabs on all the local resources here. One Senior Place is a good one in Vieira. Senior Resource Alliance, Health First, and other hospitals in this area have different kinds of groups and education presentations. Resource Center for Disability Solutions is one that I like, especially for people at any kind of disability, whether it's physical or emotional. National Alliance of Mental Illness has a lot of good education and trainings and support groups for people dealing with, depression up to, schizophrenia or bipolar, any types of mental illness. Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation for dementia and memory issues. And the hospice organizations have a lot of groups and education things out there as well. St. Francis Reflections is one, and then there's Vitas and others out there. And then if you're looking for grief groups, griefshare.org is another one where you can find different grief groups out there. So in general, that's some of the resources that I know of and wanted to pass on to you. And then if you're a cancer survivor, patient, or caregiver, just know you can go to our website, www.compcancercare.org, and there's free exercise classes, different health education topics. We even have art and expressive writing groups. There's a list of support groups, and you can talk with me individually as a social worker. We have an oncology nurse on staff who volunteers, and then a physical therapist to consult with for different questions or needs you have. And that's information on our caregiver group that's happening online now, and then we'll be opening up different groups and activities in the fall, hopefully in person.
Now, hopefully it's Sunflower House.
Yes, our caregiver group, hopefully when that opens up, probably after the summer, we'll do that. House again. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christina.
Yeah, I'll pass it on to Adrian as our host here. Let's see.
You hover over Adrian's name.
Yeah.
To more, and then you can make her host. There you go.
All right, on you.
Thank you so much, Christina. Yep. Hi, Adrian. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. Hang on, let me share my screen real quick. All right. Can everybody see it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
Cool. So I'm Adrian Cordero with Vieira and Rockledge Rehabs. Even though physical therapy and occupational therapy is part of what we do at both of our centers, personally, my background is in health and fitness before I got into marketing and just kind of also falling in love with physical and occupational therapies. So this is just some of the knowledge that I've gathered over the years and can really hopefully help you feel a lot better, because feeling good about yourself, especially if you're taking care of somebody or if you're just going through a hard time, which we know throughout this year and this crazy pandemic, we've all gone through it. So taking even just a couple of steps to make yourself feel better from the inside out can really go a long way, even for your mental health in the long run, really. So with that said, let's get started. So obviously choosing proper eating. When it comes to aging, we all tend to forget more and more often. So A big brain and memory booster is really a lot of fiber, healthy fats such as avocados, butternut squash. Butternut squash is literally one of my favorite things too. And all the rest of my family hates it, but I will just sit there. I'll bake it with a little cinnamon and a little butter, and it's absolutely delicious.
I've got to tell you, I've got the most spectacular butternut squash soup recipe. I'm going to have to.
Please, please. That's my favorite thing, especially during fall. I know we're getting into spring and summer, but right when it's about to change to fall, it's when I'm just obsessed with anything squash. And yes, the soups like that, I would love. And I think then maybe I could trick my daughter into eating it. So that'll help in the long run. The good news is my family are pretty big green eaters. They do like broccoli, and I try to make a lot with that. So there's so many different ways though to kind of trick any age group, mind you, because I've done this to my husband as well, and my mom really. You know, adding broccoli in brownies, or even like one of the mixes that has all the veggies in it. That's just kind of a powder, adding that in sweets or even in like, you know, lasagna or something. That way you get a little added green in there. But also to help treat the eyes, obviously a lot of vitamin E, carrots for teeth. We all know some milk and some calcium. For your skin, there are so many things you can eat that really and truly do help, which is vitamin A and C, any dark leafy greens, kale. I will say I absolutely hate kale raw, but I love it cooked. So I tend to stick it in soups and smoothies, but just a small amount so I don't taste it. But like I said, there's certain tips and tricks you can really get in the veggies and the greens that you need without really tasting it all. So that's kind of a sneaky way. And then obviously with heart and digestive, plenty of fiber, magnesium, my favorite, dark chocolate. There you go. So there's a little added benefit. It tastes good and it's good for you. And then of course, for your muscles, to keep your muscles built up, just plenty of good protein. You don't need to overdo it. Just chicken, egg, soy, things of that nature, will really help boost you, like I said, from the inside out. So pairing proper nutrition with really good fitness. And when I say fitness, I mean, you don't need to kill yourself. You don't need to go do P90X for 5 hours. You just need 30 to 45 minutes of solid, full body training, whether it's walking, you know, they do a lot of online yoga stuff now. In fact, I only work out from home using an app called Tone It Up, or a lot of what do you call it, YouTube based fitness gurus. And I'm a little picky being a trainer, but there are good ones on there. So anyone at any stage of fitness can start off, even now during this pandemic, at any time. And think about it, if you don't, as we age, again, your muscles are going to weaken, you're going to lose muscle mass. So just making exercise super important does help prevent injuries and help you just be happier and better through in the long run. It's not, uh-oh. I don't know what's happening. I'm so sorry. Hang on.
Okay.
And I lost it totally. That's crazy. Give me 2 seconds. I'm so sorry. And actually, I don't even need to pull it up. The next part, I was just going to do a sample of exercises to do. I am in a dress, so I got to be a little careful. But so the great thing about even just sitting and taking care of your fitness, you can literally sit up straight. Make sure you sit towards the edge of your seat. Make sure your feet are directly in front of you with your knees bent at a 90-degree angle. And you can simply extend your arms out. Make sure they're at shoulder height, so not up or down, literally at shoulder height. And you just give me tiny little baby circles forward. As you're doing this, think of, you know, nice tall spine, shoulders out of the ears, and even think maybe pulling your belly button into your spine, which is going to help really sit you upright no matter what. The great thing that I always try to remember in even everyday life is always keep your core engaged, because your core is the center of your body. Your core is keeping it engaged is going to help prevent injury. So if you're lifting something, you know, yes, use your legs, but also engage your core. So these little tiny circles really start creeping up the more that you do. So, so now we're just going to reverse it, literally reverse it. You should feel the tops of your shoulders kind of firing up a little bit. Don't forget, nice deep breaths. And exhale. Good. You're going to stop here and then bring it into kind of a goalpost, obviously. So think touchdown. And keeping that 90-degree angle in your arm, you just want to bring it all the way down and all the way up. This is really good, getting that like lactic acid kind of, build up, kind of just to get that tension out of your shoulder joint as you're rotating it down. Obviously, if you don't have the range of motion, you just go as far as you need to. You need to stop here, go right ahead. That's totally up to you. But if you can go all the way here and then all the way back while keeping those arms in line with your shoulder, you're doing a great job. Good job. Just 2 more. Keep breathing. Perfect. Bring it right here again. And this time you're going to squeeze forward and then back. Again, think shoulders down and back, shoulders away from your ears, and just think nice tall posture. Good. So not only are we getting our arms here, we're getting our chest. We're even kind of strengthening it and stretching it at the same time. Here, we're thinking about squeezing it. Here, we're stretching. Good. Good job. Just 2 more. And last one, but I want you to keep your arms right here and kind of just bring them together as much as you can. So tiny little pulses. I'm turning here so you can see me. I want you just to bring them up, literally tiny pulses. If you can't touch your elbows together, don't worry about it. But the more you bring your elbows together, the more you're really going to feel it. And even though this is the tiniest pulse and the tiniest movement, you feel it, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is just crazy to me how much you can feel the tiniest movements. And that's, again, something I love about fitness. My husband would make fun of me and be like, that doesn't look hard. I'm like, all right, get down here and try it, dude. All right, good. Just 2 more and relax. Good. All right.
Yeah,
So you should.
Planking is one of those things that doesn't look hard.
Oh, it's so hard.
Have you ever tried planking, Jane?
Yes, I try to plank every day and increase
yeah.
the seconds, not the
Yeah.
minutes.
You're up to
seconds.
60 seconds?
Yeah.
That's hard to do. A lot of people can't do that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really good. That's good.
Depending
Awesome.
on how far I've got my butt in the air, I can do it for about a minute. But if I try to do it flat, I can't do it for that long.
Yeah.
There are so many different plank variations. It's a little crazy, from plank jacks where you jump your feet out, or the mountain climbers and stuff like that. A lot of my workouts that I usually do, like I said on my app, they wind up some sort of crazy plank workout and you're like, I'm dying, but yet it's so good for every part of your body.
You're like, what are you doing? You're just laying there. No, try it.
Exactly. That's what you say. And that's why fitness, obviously people are like, oh, I can't do it. You can do it. At the end of the day, it's really mind over matter, and you're going to build. And that's what I love about fitness. You're always building, you're always getting better. I've been working out or training for 10 plus years, and I'm still certain workouts I cannot do, but I'll try. And every time I get a little better. You know what I mean? So it's those tiny little feats of accomplishment, which is something you can not only put into fitness, you put into everyday life. So whether you need to go to rehab or you're just trying to get through life in general, and you just take it a little bit at a time. And in the end, it always pays off. So it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
I want to try to at least get my, my thing back up here if I can.
Well, while you're saying that, one of the things that I wanted to throw out there, Adrienne, was the fact that I don't know that, one of the things that I think people sometimes think about exercising, that you have to do it all at once, which is really, like sometimes when you're caregiving for somebody, you might not have, an hour all uninterrupted, but if you can get 10 minutes in, if you can get in 5 minutes, an hour to get up and just walk around, or
Amen to that.
to do some things in just short little stints, you can get that workout in and also kind of take your head away from whatever it is a little bit. I think exercising also helps me get more into the present and so sometimes it can get me out of my worries about what's going to happen later on today or next week or what's going on. It can get you very much into the present. And I think that those are some of the advantages of fitness, and for just a few minutes a day, to do it a little bit at a time. So.
Amen to that. I say that a lot to friends of mine or what have you, because I'm being a little bit too personal here, but I totally get it. We're in good company. I personally have had some pretty decent child trauma, and I feel like exercising just, I don't know how else to say it other than it just makes me feel wonderful. I'm able to zone out. I'm able to put my energy into that, as opposed to, being angry or bitter or, any of the negative connotations with childhood trauma. And it's something that I feel changed me all over as a person. So, and yeah, sometimes you don't have the mental or the physical well-being that day to do a huge long workout. So you just do even a little bit of stretching or some gentle yoga. It helps at the end of the day. It really does.
Absolutely.
And Adrian, last time we met, you showed us several exercises sitting in the chair with our feet and our legs, and again, the arms. And I shared those with our professional caregivers who work 8, 10, 12-hour shifts for them to do, particularly the ones that work 7P to 7A, to help them, just keep the blood flowing and mentally alert. So that was very, very helpful.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And that's, like I said, that's the beauty of working out, really and truly. So that's amazing. Can you guys see this or no?
Not yet. No,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hang on. Let me share my screen one more time. I'm just trying to get to at least the end. So obviously we did some of that. So, and I touched on afterwards just to, really take care of yourself, especially if you're the caregiver, of course, everyone needs care, but that includes you too, period. And then that's what I wanted to show as well. So that way you guys know where we're at. And again, so this is more staying in shape or doing some sort of fitness, like I said, to keep you physically and mentally prepared for the future or whatever is going to be there for you. But for us, we're kind of the aftermath. So if you have a stroke or you have unfortunately a heart attack or some sort of a hip or a knee surgery, then we're here to really help that intensive rehabilitation to help build your strength and your balance and eye-hand coordination and everything needed back up so we can try to get you home safely if need be.
terrific.
So that's it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate it. And just like Christina before, I know that Adrian needs to scoot in just a little bit. Got something else? You got another commitment? You had said.
I gotta drive across town.
Oh, I appreciate it. And so you have a safe drive this afternoon. And thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. Good to see you, Jane.
Bye. Good to see you too. Thank you.
Take care, you guys.
Hi, Jane. It's just you and me now.
Yes, excellent.
I'm going to, let's see, share screen. There we go. And let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay, there we go.
Great. Thank you, Beth. I appreciate it so much. This section is talking about self-care. What can we do? And of course, we can build on all the things that we heard from Christina and Adrian that all overlaps. When folks are emotionally, physically, mentally exhausted, which you'll hear folks talk about, that really is the definition of burnout. And it is caused by excessive and prolonged stress. We may have a stressful day here or there, things don't go well, we lock the keys in the car, something happens. But again, prolonged commitments, daily routines that involve stress, and again, a lot of emotional input. that is where people get what's defined as burned out. And it also, occurs when you're overwhelmed and drained. These are all words you'll hear folks talk about. And then finally, you feel like you just can't meet those constant demands of caregiving and balancing all the other activities in life. Your family, work commitments, your community, neighbors. And again, it's not unusual when we become a caregiver, which I was for 14 years, that we try to maintain all the things that we used to do in addition to this caregiving role. So I'm going to talk about the warning signs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I need to.
That's good. These are all a good indicator that you're experiencing that term burnout. It's, generalized fatigue. You're tired all the time, even if you get a good night's sleep, even if you feel like you had a few breaks during the day. Still, there's such a sense of, feeling lethargic. Loss of motivation, things that used to get you excited or feel interested. You read a book and you've read the same page 3 or 4 times, and again, just not motivated. Everything feels like it's too much. Again, it's a burden. You don't have satisfaction in areas. You may contribute to a fundraiser at your church, and when you get home, it doesn't feel as if there was anything meaningful behind it. So again, generalized fatigue on many, many levels. Again, what I found was irritability, not so much outwardly, because no one would say I was being irritable, but kind of an internal impatience with people, places, things, and all of it, your work, the people, everything feels like a slight to you. Extreme state of tension and stress, making errors in areas of your life that you do not normally make, misplacing paperwork, again, locking the keys in the car, forgetting the one thing you went to the grocery store for. And then all this just adds to the self-talk that it's too much, I can't do it, I'm overwhelmed, nobody helps, even though we're not asking maybe for help. So again, generalized fatigue, irritability, tension and stress, just to an extreme state. Feeling cynical and negative, again, it's part of that self-talk. Feeling overwhelmed is really something internally as well as an expression that something's too much. And other folks will notice this, and hopefully they can gently point it out to you or ask, you doing okay? Do you need some help? And that sometimes breaks down, like Christina was saying, that just connection with other people helps break down some of these symptoms. Disinterest in our usual activities, avoiding people in your personal and professional life. You may not be returning phone calls you get, or you're turning down help from others, or you're just always seem to be like, yeah, things are great, they're going well, yeah, everybody's doing good, and yet at the same time feeling very, very alone. Just first of all, the reality is there is less energy for interacting.
Absolutely.
Yes. And these symptoms can be mild, and you'll say, oh, that's not like me, or so intense that it becomes more of who you are at that time. And they can be more severe, needing intervention and treatment. As I said before, we may not recognize the severity of our stress level, but our physical health starts being compromised. That annual visit to the doctor shows different lab levels are out of order, blood pressure is a little bit higher. So again, some of the consequences of burnout or the severe stress that's prolonged and intense is an impact on our physiology. So our physician may acknowledge and check in with you. And the first person who may say something is a family member or a friend, a coworker. And initially we may feel resentful about that. Because internally, the self-talk up here is constantly going more than any other conversation we have. And how we're hearing what someone else is saying.
Well, and I think that can be a sign of if you can take a beat and take a breath and recognize, gosh, I don't normally bite my husband's head off like that. I mean, it can sometimes be, when he was just trying to say, hey, honey, is everything okay? If you take a breath and back yourself off from the situation, you can see that can very well be a sign of that irritability piece you were talking about before, and being negative and cynical and quick to anger and all of those things. There's, very much signs that, there's stuff going on here, and burnout is on its way, or there.
Absolutely. And again, it may be the first time in our life that we haven't been able to handle it all in our mind. And yet there are some serious consequences that can happen. So the next slide we want to look at, before the symptoms become extreme and unbearable, really, change that conversation with ourselves. What do I need? Increase your self-compassion. Wow, a lot's been going on this past month,
year.
Easier
said than done, Jane. That's a tough one.
Yes, it is. It is, because we have to get very quiet to hear that voice. And because habitually now we're in the churned up mode. So again, we're going to have whatever it can be to just, whether it's hearing this conversation everyone's had today, or someone you really love and trust gently takes you aside and being able to hear that. Hopefully that is has someone with that hand outstretched, right, or a physician that says, gosh, you normally, and again, your relationship with that person stops you to, sit back and explore what's going on. So consulting your medical provider, someone you trust, attending something when you can. Again, I'm talking about fitting in one more thing, but some of the organizations and meetings that Christina was talking about, just 1 30-minute meeting can change your perspective and the self-talk that has been created during this time of need. So connecting with other people, I think that's what Aging Matters really does.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about connections. Yeah.
Really
so
hard.
I always tell, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I think it's really hard when you're caregiving for people. I know that my mom would, she often would just, pour all of her time and her energy into my dad. And if she had an extra hour, she was not going to be spending it somewhere else. She was going to be doing more of her caregiving, and to try to get that through sometimes to people we love who are caregiving it can be difficult, because, there's all that guilt and that self-talk that you've been talking about, about taking that time for yourself. But that's why I like to call this session Keeping Your Well Full, because you can't give what you don't have. And if your well runs dry, everybody's going to be in trouble,
Absolutely. And what I've heard at support groups over the years for caregivers is, do you know how hard it was for me to get here today? And yes, it may, even not particularly cost effective, they may have to professionally hire someone to sit for 3 hours for, during this time. So, and not everyone. I was in a home the other day, and we talked about someone connecting with one of these support groups, and again, just having the technology and the knowledge of the technology
Right.
to participate. So there are many barriers to it. I agree. But hopefully before the symptoms get too extreme, you know, folks can do some of the things that they did in the past that made them feel better. Again, people are the expert on themselves. I can come up with a litany of suggestions, ideas, and activities, but people know themselves and what works for them. So again, whatever it is that when you check in, when someone checks in with themselves and say, how's it going? What do you need? Who do you need? If someone asks, what would that be? So taking time for yourself sounds impossible, like you just said. What would I do if I had 10 minutes, if I had an hour? So again, looking at you and what works for you. Some folks, it's watching an old movie, prayer, cooking, you know, gardening. So anything that can distract and shift and help you reclaim a little bit of yourself during this caregiving time. And again, identifying who can help and what would be helpful.
Right.
Because when people ask, you just want to throw your arms up and go, don't get me started, you know.
Exactly.
I don't even know where to begin.
I don't know where to begin. Right.
Yeah. So, and again, hopefully everyone has that personal check-in. I probably over check in with people, but, and then develop a plan of action, tools to help. As much as you can, even in the chaos, maintain some routine. Folks say at the end of the day and the beginning of the day is if you have little rituals, and that's everything from in the evening, you know, washing your face, using your lotions, giving yourself a hand massage, brushing your teeth, and then getting cozy with a mindless magazine or, you know, 2 pages of that book you can't get through. Again, your closure of your day psychologically in the beginning, opening of your day are very vital to a sense of well-being throughout the day. I wake up and try to drink 16 ounces of water. You know, I have this little ritual, and it takes 12 minutes to start my day. But again, it's just what I do. I take a 3-minute shower. I can be in and out, but again, I just let the water fall on the base of my neck after I have my about 2 to 3 glasses of water. And I don't turn on any music, TV, anything during that time. So again, everyone's going to be able to identify what rituals would be good for them to start their day. And sometimes it means for the caregiver getting up at least a half hour before, you know, their loved one. And definitely at the end of the day is the same thing. You just want to fall into bed with your clothes on. But if you can create small rituals towards, you know, self-care. So as much as you can, go ahead.
I think it's really important. I think it can be meditative and it can ground you if you start your day and you at least, you know, have that illusion of having a plan, you know, or even if everything's, you know, even if you're just everything's going to go sideways. And sometimes when I've caregiven, I thought, well, I took a shower and I made my bed. At least I accomplished those 2 things today. You know, I made my bed every morning. It's part of my routine and my husband's routine. We get up, we make our bed. That's
a great example. Yeah.
You know, we say, well, you know, and also again, same thing with exercise, which I was broken on Adrian. I think that establishing a routine can be meditative. It can be very contemplative. Maybe your routine can just be some deep breathing exercises. There are some great
Yes.
apps there on your phone that are just have you breathe in and breathe out. And that, literally takes, can take 30 seconds to a minute or 2 minutes. And we all have that. Even if you
Yes.
say we don't have a single time, and we all have that.
Absolutely. It's free. You don't need any tools. It's,
Right. Exactly.
again, the water, the breathing, scents. I like different scents. I keep rosemary and I'll rub it between my fingers and smell that. Basil, mint. So there are different things that you can do to stimulate the hippocampus to get a sense that, everything's okay and very calm. And then you can go on to bigger things after if you find that, oh, well, I worked in that 10-second activity. Maybe I can work in something that takes 2 minutes. So like the arm exercise that we just did. I thought, yeah, that was great. So, and, again, folks find different ways to reframe the thoughts in their head. It's easy to turn on the news and then start to go down that tube of negativity. And so whatever you do to kind of reshape that negative self-talk. And for me, I can't hang a bird feeder or know where to hang a bird feeder, but I have a bowl with bird seed in it. And I can just look out there at the birds and the squirrels. And I had a rabbit the other day, and it just shifts everything again physiologically it's very calming. So any thoughts you have around self-care or tools?
Yeah, I think that it's, it is one of the hardest things to do, to put into practice. And it seems sort of like almost like a throwaway thing. Oh, and take care of yourself. It is one of the most difficult things to do, but it is one of the most vital things to do, I feel. And that's why I'm so glad when you join in on these talks, Jane, is because we have to look at caregiving as most of the time. Now, some of us are lucky and we only have to caregive for a couple of weeks or whatever. Most of our caregiving as we get older is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so we have to be part of learning how to pace ourselves is to learn how to be able to meter out what we have and to be able to continue to refill that and to not drain ourselves so much to get to the point where we're overwhelmed. So you're very much right. The trick, I think, to being able to really caregive well and effectively is to figure that is to be able to self identify when I'm getting overwhelmed and when it's before it's gotten to that point, where all of a sudden, oh yeah, I have noticed that, because many times, even though we don't mean it, we take it out on the very people we're caring for in little ways. And I'm not saying anything, hugely, but we find that the resentment builds up and anger builds up, and it's no way to live, and I think I heard somewhere that only 10% of what we communicate comes through our voices and what we say, and the other 90% comes through our body actions and our nonverbal communication. So even if we think we're hiding that, or we're very good at not letting people know that we're ticked off, no, they can tell.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. And one thing I suggested to folks over the years, and I used myself, just ask my grandchildren, but some of these things I mentioned, they're on Post-it notes, my bathroom mirror, my back door before I leave, my refrigerator. So it reminds me when I look in the bathroom mirror and it says smile, and again, it's because in the moment you won't necessarily think, oh, this was fun to do last week, I'll do it again. And so put Post-it notes around with, reminders.
about the post-it note thing is, and here's a little self brag. My mom was, like I've said many times in these different courses, my mom was a primary caregiver for my dad until he passed away. And I would come down every once in a while, every couple of months, I'd come down and spend as much time as I could, you know, a few days here or a week there. But one of the things I've tried to do was I would stick little post-it notes in different spots and where I knew my mom would eventually be looking, like maybe a week or two into her calendar, or inside of a book that she was reading, or maybe in her makeup drawer with just, you know, you're doing great, or I love you, or smile, or those things.
Oh,
For people who are maybe would not consider themselves primary caregivers, but are trying to support caregivers. So a friend or a family member that's either, you know, just blowing in for a couple of weeks. Those can be really supportive kinds of little things that you can do.
that's lovely.
So I would put it like in the pocket of her sweater that she would wear or something. So you can, if you think about ways that we can continue to support our fellow caregivers, you know, and the people that love the people we love.
And oh, that is lovely. I'm going to share that with folks. Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for this, you know, having this available for myself as well as folks who are in the heat of it, because there's always something or someone we're taking care of, not in the great intensity that we have in the past, but it's helpful.
You know, at some point, you know, I mean, Assisting Hands is also can be there, and that's the organization you work with and work for. You know, it's also okay at some point to recognize when we do need additional, you know, assisting hands, when we maybe need to look at all other alternatives up to and including professionals to come in and do some help. And,
yes.
and maybe that's a temporary thing, and maybe that's a more permanent thing, and it doesn't always mean having to have all kinds of people in your house all day long, but an extra thing. Maybe it's getting a hold of Aging Matters to seeing, maybe it would be great to have to get on to eventually get on Meals on Wheels, to have somebody be able to drop off a couple of hot meals so I wouldn't have to cook at lunchtime. Or maybe it would be great to get a hold of Assisting Hands and see if I could get just, you know, just a respite care provider or a homemaker to come in, you know, or, you know, the different things that that all kinds of agencies that we have in Brevard County can do. I think that there's a lot of resources out there, and I think it's okay for us all to say, yeah. No.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other day, the last person I met with was exploring just having some respite. And I said, what do you miss? What would you do with that time? She said, I go back to the pool. I have a wonderful group of women I do water aerobics with. And now 3 days a week, we're only there a few hours, but she's getting back to the pool. So,
and getting some exercise. And I would bet a paycheck on the fact that she's a better caregiver.
Yes.
Now that she's taking care of herself. So
right. She was just all smiles. So it was fun. She goes, oh, I can do that. I said, you can do whatever you want with the time. So yes,
I can go and take a nap if you want. You can
right. Oh, so yeah, thank you so much for what you do. I appreciate it.
Oh, I thank you so very much. If you, you know, for your for joining me, Jane, and of course Adrian and Christina too have already left us because they scooted in to be able to help us out today. We're going to be hopefully doing this session again. Right now, this is the April 2021, and we're going to be doing it again in July. And Jane and Adrian and will be joining us again. And I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon. And I think I'm going to go do some self-care and grab my husband and go out playing 9 holes of golf later on today.
Oh, I love that idea. Enjoy.
So,
good for you.
Take care of yourself.
Bye. Bye.